Welcome to the Slate roof marking lesson. Slate cannot be applied at any angle of inclination. The very philosophy of these roofs says, I am real, do not use me where I should not be. It goes against my nature. Many slate manufacturers and various guides indicate that the minimum pitch for slate roofs is 22 degrees. I am convinced that there is no logic to apply slate at an angle of inclination less than 25 degrees. Firstly, at 22 degrees, although he will work out, but at critical boundary capabilities. This means that under certain conditions, the batten will get wet with all the ensuing consequences. In this case, it is necessary to apply additional waterproofing. But why all this if there is a double seam for such roofs? The second slate is still a decorative material, and up to 25 degrees the roof is practically invisible from below. So what's the point of such a decision? For visible roofs with angles of 25 degrees or more, slate is ideal. Let's figure out how the horizontal overlap is determined. On a double rectangular slating, the word overlap means overlapping the first row of stone with the third row. Therefore, this slating is called double. One visible row consists of 2 layers of slate. As you can see the overlap of the first row of slate with the third row, this is the value we are looking for. This overlap is determined by the table. Under this video I have attached a document, you can keep it for yourself. This is where many stop, but this is not all that needs to be considered if you want to do it truly professionally. We need to calculate the height of the row so that the last row is the same size as the rest. So that your result is like this. Not like this one. To do this, we must first determine the top and bottom of our slate surface. If everything is clear with the bottom, there is a drip, then at the top we need to clearly understand how we will arrange the ridge. Consider the example of a ventilation ridge. Here we will not discuss the ventilated ridge for a long time, there is a separate lesson about them, but here it is important to understand how slate will fit it. The air comes out here. To understand where the upper boundary of the slate surface will be, we need to understand where the slate on the ridge will begin. I recommend making this overlap larger than the overlap on the rows, because we need to securely cover the nail holes of the last row. The last row is nailed like this. This line defines our upper boundary of the slating surface. The bottom line of the border is a drip. So, let's analyze a specific case of determining the horizontal overlap. We have a typical roof. We know that the angle of inclination is 35 degrees. We also know that we will work with slate 40 by 25 centimeters. According to the table, we are looking for the minimum allowable overlap for our angle of inclination, and for our slate format it is 100 millimeters. Now we define the minimum visible part of the slate, the height of one row. 400 minus 100 and divide by 2 is equal to 150 millimeters. This is what the manual tells us. Now we need to adjust this data to our actual roof. We have to outline the boundaries. This is a drip at the bottom and a ridge row at the top. Now we have to measure this side. And this side. It is important to measure each side because on a real building site these lengths will almost always be different. For our US homes, just understand that very accurate measurements will be required here. Be patient a little, so many numbers will only be in the markup lesson. From this side we measured and got 6,295 millimeters. And from this side 6,328 millimeters. We determine how many whole rows will fit in these distances. For this we divide each length by the estimated height of the row. 6295 divided by 150 we get 41.97 rows. Now from this side we divide 6,328 by 150 we get 42.19 rows. Now we understand how many rows fit in these distances. As you can see the numbers are not integers, we have to convert this to one integer. On this side we have 42 whole rows. And on this side of 42.2, we have to adjust to this figure because more rows fit here. And because it's 42.2 here, we define 43, the next step up. So as not to make the overlap less than the minimum allowable. Now we divide this size by 43. 6295 divided by 43, we get 146.4 millimeters. We do the same calculations from this side. 6328 divided by 43, we get 147.16 millimeters. From this side we will have one step, and from this side a slightly different step. Look, do not confuse when you make markings on the roof. Now your guys are unwinding the tape measure from one point. And mark with a bright wax pencil the marks that you tell them. You multiply the resulting size by 2, then by 3, by 4, and so on 43 times. You can also mark every 3 rows, then this distance can be divided by 3 already during the laying of slate, so you will definitely reach the ridge as planned. Do the same on the other side. The dimensions of the sides differ. It is important that we divided them into 43 even parts. When you mark this on the roof, I recommend marking with a bright wax pencil and making marks with such an arrow and not just a dash. The arrow gives clearer information on where to hold chalk line. Then you take a roofing long solid chalk line and fill it in with new paint. Stretch it from one end to the other end. If the roof is wide, then one person fixes the chalk line with a finger in the middle, and controls that the thread does not cling to anything. After that, it beats first on one side, then on the other side. To summarize, the slating surface shrinks like an accordion. Why cut part of the last tile when the rows can be evenly spaced? And this is especially important on the facade, where all this will be in full view. If half a row fits along the edges of window or doorways, on a subconscious level it will be clear to everyone that something is wrong here. Therefore, the facade should be divided into zones: bottom of the window, top of the window, top of the facade. And fit the slate into these zones in height. Almost always, this can be done imperceptibly to the eye. Apply this principle and your work will look perfect. Show this tutorial to your roofers and you can rest easy, they will do everything without you. In the next lesson, we'll look at vertical marking. How to adjust your slate to actual roof dimensions. How to do it once, and clearly build a plan for controlled work. To go to the second lesson, click on the button below.